We're going to talk about is perfect knowledge from the perfect person. So, one, I'm just going to throw out some theories here, and you are going to
talk about is perfect.
I'll throw out some theories here, and you guys can do some experimentation to check my claims, because it'll take research to check my claims. I'll try and give as much evidence as I can in personal experience, but unless you have your own pratyaksha means personal experience, it won't be very valuable. Well, it will be very valuable, but it won't be very as meaningful to you. So it's very important to have one's personal experience. So I recommend, I'm going to share with you some things from the Bhagavad Gita, but I would recommend checking out the Bhagavad Gita yourself and having your own personal experience with it, which is why we brought some Bhagavad Gitas today, in case anyone wants to take a copy. So, we are going to flip into the text. We're going to go to the second chapter, and I think we're going to do verse 41 and 42. Okay. All right, so let's start with, let me just check out 42. This one, this one's very funny. So we're gonna actually do it's gonna be text 42 and 43. They lump it together in this Bhagavad Gita. So what we're going to do is first do an invocation. We're gonna try and actually invoke the personality behind the Bhagavad Gita. Remember, the perfect knowledge from the perfect person. If we're trying to actually understand the wisdom of this person's teaching, and the person is Krishna. You guys all know that Krishna is the person speaking the Bhagavad Gita. He's renowned as giving the original four paths of yoga, like the sublime teacher. Many, who don't follow his teachings religiously, so to say, they at least did not acknowledge him as a great personality who gave these four teachings on a battlefield 5,500 years ago. Now, if you actually study the teachings, you realize who he says he is way different than maybe what the historians are saying they are. But you'll have to have this type of experience for yourself. But the best thing to do is actually hear from Krishna and study the words and the meanings and the commentary on this Bhagavad Gita. I recommend this commentary. This is called the As It Is commentary. The reason I recommend this As It Is commentary is because a lot of times people who are academics try and give commentary on the Bhagavad Gita. That would be like, going into the middle of a battlefield and, I want to know all about, how to, let's say, actually, Mukunda is a black belt in jiu-jitsu in his, his time in this body. That is an art that he has learned. So if I wanted to learn jiu-jitsu, if I'm not very intelligent, I want to learn jiu-jitsu from the guy at Cornell University over there. I'd be like, all right, maybe if he's a black belt, then I'll listen to him. But if he has no actual experience doing jiu-jitsu and he's just sitting at the top of his building and he can tell you all the different say academic aspects of jiu-jitsu, but has no real experience practicing jiu-jitsu, what will be the value? But Mukunda, when you learned jiu-jitsu, who did you learn from?
From someone that was doing it.
Yes, someone who's experienced and probably had a black belt must have given you a black belt, true? Mm-hmm. Yes, so the black belt has to give the black belt. So similarly, if we want to learn Bhagavad Gita and take any commentary, we want an experienced practitioner of the teachings of Bhagavad Gita, which is why this As It Is version is so necessary, because to be frank, of all of the commentaries on Bhagavad Gita out there, he is Swami Prabhupada is the only one who's in English given an elaborate commentary. There actually more have come now over the past 50 years, but he was the first to give an elaborate commentary in English on someone who was completely saturated and practiced and devoted his whole life to these teachings. So I heavily recommend this commentary over, say, the many commentaries that the Western academics offer that really don't meet the spirit of Bhagavad Gita at all, because they really don't understand Bhagavad Gita. So that's one thing. But anyhow, let's do an invocation mantra to actually hope that Krishna, who is the speaker of the Bhagavad Gita, gives us some wisdom today. Remember, we were just chanting Hare Krishna, and the emphasis on why we're chanting these names of God is to be an instrument for God. So don't expect me to actually give you anything. I'm just trying to potentially be an instrument for the Lord. So that's what we'll do. It goes like this.
First page, yeah?
No,
You're
not doing that one.
different page.
Yes. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Jai. All right. And what's that mean, Mukunda?
12 brain fart. I bow, or I give respect to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva.
Yes, yes. And Vasudev is a name for Vasudeva is a name for Krishna, Vasudeva is a name for Krishna, who has appeared in this world as the son of Vasudeva, and also Vasudev means the all-pervading. You know, like Vasudeva consciousness would being understand the nature of spirit within all facets of matter, everything around us. This is called Brahman energy, or maybe even Christian theology, the Holy Spirit, or something like this. So that's also a realization of Vasudeva. So, no matter how you look at it, we're asking for the blessing of the Supreme Spirit to come and give us this wisdom. And why we need wisdom, we'll kind of explain. But let's go to the verses themselves and we'll talk about them. And we'll do the commentary of Prabhupada for some time, and then, we'll talk. Ready? Repeat after me. If you want, it's anyone have a page in that book? What page is it? 105. Yamimam pushpitam vacham
Yamimam pushpitam vacham
pravadantya vipashchita
Pravadantya vipashchita
Vedavada rata partha
Vedavada rata partha
Nanyadastiti vadinaha
Yadastiti varinaha
Kamatmana svargapara
Kamatmana swargapara
Janma karma phalapradam
Janma karma phalapradam
Kriya vishesha bahulam
Kriya vishesha bahulam
Bhogaishvarya gatim prati.
Gaishwarya gatim prati
Okay, yamimam, all these, pushpitam, flowery, vacham, words, pravadanti, say, avipashchita, man with a poor fund of knowledge, vedavada rataha, supposed followers of the Vedas, partha, O son of Pritha, na, never, anyat, anything else, asti, there is, iti, this, vadina, advocates, kama atmanaha, desirous of sense gratification, swargapara, aiming to achieve heavenly planets, janma karma phalapradam, resulting in fruitive action, good birth, etc.
It's hard when you do a different translation.
Yeah, I have a different translation. I like the original, I'm sorry. Anyway, Kriya Vishesha, pompous ceremonies, Bahulam, various, Bhoga, sense enjoyment, Aishwarya, opulence, Gatim, progress, Prati,
Prati.
towards.
Towards.
Translation. Men of small knowledge are very much attached to the flowery words of the Vedas, which recommend various fruitive activities for elevation to heavenly planets, result in good birth, power, and so forth. Being desirous of sense gratification and opulent life, they say that there is nothing more than this. Now, Prabhupada will write, people in general are not very intelligent. Remember we had that, what was that word? Vedavadaritaha, the supposed followers of the Vedas, and avipashchita, men with a poor fund of knowledge. So people in general are not very intelligent, and due to their ignorance, they are mostly attached to the fruitive activities recommended in the karma kanda portions of the Vedas. They do not want anything more than sense gratificatory proposals for enjoying life in heaven, where this was primarily spoken for a man, but the opposite would be true for a woman, where wine and women are available and material opulence is very common. The heaven spoken of here is not the same place that you might have heard about in, like the Christian religion, because there's, or where you're being with God. There's a different tiers of heaven. If you can imagine, there are many hellish places in this world even. There's many countries you could go where war is ravaging the country. If you go there and you're in the middle of it, you're in like a hellish type of place. But similarly, if you go to, I was just thinking of this place because we're going to fly through there on the way back. Going to India, Abu Dhabi is like one of the richest cities in the world. And everything's so opulent there. It's a much more different scenario, right? So in this universe, there are planetary systems that are more opulent, and similarly, there are hellish places which are much less ideal. Even in this world, we can measure that. Now, beyond our ability to measure, it's spoken of like this. So anyhow, we'll continue reading. In the Vedas, many sacrifices are recommended for elevation to the heavenly planets, especially the Jyotishtama sacrifices. In fact, it is stated that anyone desiring elevation to heavenly planets must perform these sacrifices, and men with a poor fund of knowledge think that this is the whole purpose of Vedic wisdom. It is very difficult for such inexperienced persons to be situated in the determined action of Krishna consciousness. As fools are attached to the flowers of poisonous trees without knowing the results of such attractions, similarly unenlightened men are attracted by such heavenly opulence and the sense enjoyment thereof. In the Karmakanda section of the Vedas, it is said that those who perform the 4 monthly penances become eligible to drink the somaras beverages, to become immortal and happy forever. Even on this earth, some are very eager to have somaras to become strong and fit to enjoy sense gratifications. Such persons have no faith in liberation from material bondage, and they are very much attached to the pompous ceremonies of Vedic sacrifices. They are generally sensual, and they do not want anything other than the heavenly pleasures of life. It is understood that there are gardens called Nandanakanana, in which there is a good opportunity for association with, again, this was spoken for men, but the opposite would be true for women, with angelic, beautiful women, and having a profuse supply of somaras wine. Such bodily happiness is certainly sensual. Therefore, there are those who are purely attached to material, temporary happiness as lords of the material world. So, I'm going to break this down. Like, why did you have us read that? I'll tell you in a minute. But first I'm going to pray to the many wonderful personalities in our lineage from which the knowledge from which I'm about to speak is being passed down, including Sri Krishna himself, who spoke the Bhagavad Gita. This is found on the page 1 of the Bhagavad Gita. If you want to chant along, you can chant on page 1 with us. Would you guys like to do it to the harmonium? We can do it with some harmonium accompaniment. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanam Shalakaya Chakshara Militam Nena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Radhakamalam Shri Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Harijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Shri Vishwamitanscha Hare Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Namaste Tapta Kanchana Gaurani Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhani Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda and the Mahamantra all together. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Namo Vishnupadaya, Krishna Krishna Bhutale, Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shrivani Pashtya Deshatarine. All right. So, I was hoping for a burst of all kinds of inspiration and wisdom on what to say when I was doing that prayer. And I didn't get it, so we'll just wing it. So anyhow, men of small knowledge are very much attached to the flowery words of the Vedas, which recommend various fruitive activities for elevation in the heavenly planets, result in good birth, power, and so forth. Can you just move a little that way, Michael? This is, I only see my wife's arm. So, okay. Elevation in the heavenly planets result in good birth, power, and so forth. Being desirous of sense gratification and opulent life, they say that there is nothing more than this. Now, to us, this type of life that's being described here sounds amazing, you know, probably from where we're at, like, wow, I can be on a heavenly planet where there's amazing, wonderful facilities to enjoy. You know, maybe result in good birth, maybe in this, you know, it's understood of the fact of reincarnation in this text. Now, in the West, it's not so widely understood, but there is scientific even confirmation that reincarnation is absolutely happening, and there's all kinds of phenomena with children having memories of past births and things like that. So, those who practice the Vedas, sometimes they will mold their life in such a way to actually get a better birth in the future. Power and so forth. You know, whatever they want, whatever you desire, the Vedas has a prescription of how to get whatever you desire. But the problem is, if we don't know what to desire, or let's just say we just desire so many things, but we don't know the consequences of such desires, then what's the use? We're all looking for happiness. We're all looking for pleasure, but if we don't know where pleasure actually comes, right? The meaning of Ram, we were chanting to Ram. My name is Ram Das, right? Ram means the source of all pleasure, the reservoir of all pleasure. But if we don't understand that's where pleasure lies, and we search for pleasure in all these sensuous things, ultimately what will happen is we'll lose every single thing that we've worked so hard to attain in this world. Is it not? What can you keep that you've acquired and worked so tirelessly to get in this world? What could be kept?
Nothing. Your actions. The consequences of the actions.
Yes, well, the karma, but even the karma will eventually dissipate, or so that will go. Nothing is close, but there's something. It's actually the only thing that you can keep is your spiritual advancement, actually. But if we're making very little spiritual advancement, what good is our life? It's actually very little good, and most are. Unfortunately, what would be mentioned in the Ishopanishad, acting as killers of the soul, where they're actually wasting this valuable opportunity to be a human being. There's, there's so many species in this world around us. Everyone, including the human beings, are focused only on these temporary fruits, or the flowery, you could say, objects of the Vedas. Oh, you want a good wife? You worship this demigod, do this ritual, you can get like this. Oh, you want power, you want a position, you want money, you want wealth, all of these things. Yeah, just do this, worship this god, all these things. And guess what? It works. It's not the Indian culture, they understand this very well. They do it, actually. But Krishna is actually recommending in the Bhagavad Gita, even 5,500 years ago, he's actually going to teach and preach monotheism. And ultimately, the goal is not for stuff or temporary enjoyments. There's a higher goal. And actually, what's going to be established is hinted at in the 2 verses previously to this. Or is it 3 verses previous? Yes. The 3 verses. So if you go to text 39, which is probably a few pages ahead, I'll just read the English. Thus, Krishna gave the first, you could say, 30 verses of this chapter. He gave all kinds of knowledge of Sankhya, or analytical knowledge of what is matter, what is spirit, what you really are, who you really are. And that's very important. If you don't even know who you are, then you can't know what will make you happy. It's like trying to get to this house on your GPS, but you don't even know where your starting point is. And you're just mistyping in the starting point, and it's giving you directions from a different place, but you're like, it's not working. So that's what we're doing, actually. We think we are this body. We think we are this mind. We think we're the identifications. I'm from this family lineage. I'm from this ethnicity. I'm from this, that, and the other thing. But none of these are actually factually who we are. That's just a temporary designation given to us in this lifetime, in this lifespan. Yoga knowledge is very deep. This is not like a little thing. This isn't. It takes very refined intellect. Which is why Krishna recommends what's called Buddhi Yoga. Buddhi Yoga. Buddhi. You've heard of the Buddha. Buddha means the enlightened one. So he says in this verse, Esha te bihita sankhye, which I've already declared to you, Sankhya. And he said, Buddhir yoge tvimam shrinu. Now listen to the knowledge of yoga, where one works without fruitive result. And then Buddhya yukto yaya partha. When you act by such intelligence, you can free yourself from the bondage of works. Karma bandham prahasyasi. We're bound by our karma, our activities that we do in this world. We're bound. We're attached to them. And then if they come out how we want, we celebrate. And if they don't, then we cry. And it's just going on and on and on like this. But actually, the enlightened, they're not interested in trying to create more karma, and they're not interested in trying to get the fruits that were, good birth, power, wealth, opulence, this, that, and the other, that most people are chasing in this world, because they know it can never make them happy. Now, what can make us happy? What Krishna is about to explain, this Buddhi Yoga, or the yoga that the intelligent follow. Yoga means what? You're a yogi. Union. Yes, yoke, to unite. In a more kind of relatable word, connection, to make a link. So what are we uniting? The Buddhi Yoga would be to unite The intellect, what would we unite the intellect with? What is all yoga actually pointing to? What's that? She's pointing to the ceiling. To unite with the ceiling.
Ishvara. That's what it says in the, what is it, Patanjali's? In Patanjali's, right?
Yeah, well, that's Ishvara Pranidhana, complete surrender unto the Ishvara. Ishvara means supreme controller. There's, yes, the absolute, the absolute truth or the supreme. And that manifestation of that has tears, right? We were talking about that, the all-pervading spirit from which we're all part and parcel of. Then even there's a localized element that the supreme is present within your own consciousness, and to try and unite with that. And then what we're trying to do right now is to unite and to make a connection with the Bhagavan element, whereas this supreme being comes in many different manifestations known as avatars, and gives high-level teachings for the time, place, and circumstances. And Krishna mentions that in Bhagavad Gita, why and when he comes. And whenever righteousness falls in the world, that the supreme being has to correct everything. And so he'll come and he'll have an avatar. And then there's many, formal avatars. There's said the Dash avatars of Vishnu. But they said there's in the Bhagavatam, which is another wonderful ancient Vedic text, that there's more avatars than there are waves in the ocean. Yes, here's the Bhagavatam. This is very nice. If you want, maybe we'll have you take Mukunda's Bhagavatam today, and I'll replace I'll replace the Bhagavatam for him if you want. This is very nice. This is an incredible scripture. So anyhow, all about Buddhi Yoga, the yoga of intelligence, can be learned in this Bhagavatam, if you really want to do that which is intelligent. But it will take some, almost like a level of desperation, where we have to realize, maybe, we can realize it, like Krishna gave Sankhya. Arjuna was a warrior. Why did he give him this knowledge? Arjuna was a warrior who was having an existential crisis, where he didn't want to fight, he didn't want to do his duty, even though he's a Kshatriya. Kshatriya comes from two words. I just learned this today from Prabhupada. I was listening. Shat, I think it means injure, to injure. And Traya means to free that person from... it's the same thing as mantra. Mantra is trayate. Trayate, to free that person from injury, meaning to protect someone. So a warrior, their duty is to protect the civilized people who might get injured or harmed by others. So that's what a police force is supposed to do. That is what armies are supposed to do. In Kali Yuga, oftentimes it doesn't go like that. People want to exploit and abuse power and things like this. But that's what a Kshatriya would do. And so Krishna he was remarking to Arjuna that you're a Kshatriya. You should be trying to protect these people. You should be fighting this war for the ultimate cause, because these people are really harming the rest of the world. That's what he's implying by mentioning that he's a Kshatriya. But ultimately, Arjuna had so many problems. He had to fight against his own cousins in the war who took the irreligious side. He had to fight against his old military teachers, his grandfather, figure in his life, Bhishma, who made a vow to the king of the Hastinapur throne. He would never break this vow, and when the throne got usurped by an evil person, he made an honorable vow to serve that person no matter what. So anyhow, all these circumstances, he had really complex circumstances, but he didn't want to fight. And then ultimately he was lamenting. Just like, I won't go so much into detail, but I was having a lot of affection. I was thinking about my family members the other day, and I was remarking how much affection I have for them as compared to, say, people I'm just meeting, or things like, what makes them so special? And actually, in the material world, as far as human beings, there is a certain special thing given to one's family members. But ultimately, if we've been unlimitedly reincarnating, does anyone remember their family members in their past life? No. How about the 2 lives ago? So next life, how relevant will our family members in this life be? Not that relevant. Just like we don't remember who was in our family members in our past life, we won't remember who was our family in this life. How about your wife? Anyone remember your wife or your husband in your past life? Children? Yes. So this is like an existential crisis, because these are the things people live for, you know.
A lot of the time you hear too, like when people pass, like on Facebook or something, they're like, oh, I know you're up there with this cousin and that brother, and like kind of these idealistic kind of.
I saw one the other day where the person was going back with their long lost love of many years, and it's like, oh, I wonder if he waited around just for you to come. You don't know, actually. It's not up for us to decide, like how we got here in the first place. Maybe we weren't thinking we'd show up like this in this family in this set of circumstances, but destiny has its way, and we're gonna go as we deserve to go. Whatever the divine arrangement is, that's what it is. But anyhow, Krishna was actually purifying Arjuna of these attachments to the worldly considerations, the considerations of matter. Like, this is my family, these are my relatives. And what he was explaining is the science of the soul, of who you really are, beyond the covering of the body. Like, I like this sweater. This sweater looks very nice, right? My wife picked it out. But ultimately, if someone came in here and tried to harm us all, and the only thing that happened was my sweater got ripped, I'd be quite grateful. Like, oh my gosh, that was a close one. But actually, that's what's always happening, even when people die. When we die, we think and when others die, we think it's so, oh my gosh. But actually, for the enlightened person, they don't lament. Krishna mentions in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, the wise man laments neither for the living nor the dead. Why? Because they know the spirit of the soul. They know that, the soul, it's mentioned all about the soul. It's indestructible, it's eternal, it's everlasting, you can't burn it, there's no destruction of the soul, it keeps going. It's part and parcel of God, it's spirit. It's amazing, actually. It's mentioned many times in this second chapter, how amazing the soul is. So this was like kind of the Sankhya philosophy. But now he wants you to listen to the knowledge of yoga, where ultimately one will work without fruitive result. Meaning, okay, so what? I just learned that none of these material things matter in this world, so what do I do now? He's going to give you a yoga practice where you still do the work, but ultimately you're not working for the result anymore. You're working for the sheer spirit of doing one's duty. And then ultimately you find out what the highest duty is. The ultimate tier of Buddhi yoga is what Krishna reveals is bhakti yoga. You do it out of love. And you do it ultimately for love for God. And you realize that God is within every single other living entity. And so you'll naturally love everyone. That love will exude to everyone if one loves God. That's why Jesus said, anyone here grow up Christian? Am I the only one? Yes, you grew up Christian, right? So does anyone know Jesus' first two commandments he said were more important than any other?
To love the Lord with all of your heart, mind, and soul. And
Yes.
To love your neighbor as yourself.
Yes, to love God with all your heart, mind, soul, strength, and will. And then what I just said, if you see that God is within every other neighbor, you'll love them as well and treat them as you'd want to be treated. So ultimately, this comes through a Buddhi yoga. Jesus was a teacher of bhakti. Love and connection with the Supreme. Love and relationship with God. So, actually, that's what my last name means. It's interesting. I don't know, names meaning. Actually, my whole name actually means what I'm doing right now, which is really interesting. I wasn't born Ram or Ramdas. I was born Ronald. Ronald means to rule by advice, to be an advisor. Michael, my middle name, means, it's a rhetorical question. It means, who is like God? So it's kind of like meaning, what is the position of God? You know. And then Madeo stems from two words in Latin, ama and deus. Ama means love and deus means God. You know, to advise people on God's position, who is like God, and to love God. So interestingly enough, that's what I found myself doing in this lifetime. And I didn't find it out until after I was doing it. But that's, just an interesting thing that happened in my life. But if, back to the subject matter on hand, you know, we said perfect knowledge from a perfect person. So I have two claims for you. One, there is perfect knowledge. Perfect knowledge exists. It is found in the Vedic teachings. And the perfect person gives that perfect knowledge. And that's Bhagavan, or the Supreme Person, also known as God in the Western kind of paradigm. But, you know, how I can prove that to you, I can read you a few verses. You can maybe derive benefit from a few verses. But unless you personally endeavor to make that connection yourself, you can't know. You know, everyone here appreciates science, right? Yes, for the most part. We're benefiting from so many acts of science, electricity, this, that, and the other thing. But one of the necessary parts of science is experimentation. There's the beginning, you make a hypothesis. So I'm giving you a hypothesis that there is perfect knowledge. And this Buddhi Yoga, the yoga of the highest intelligence, is the system of perfect knowledge. And what you get from practicing this is a pleasure far greater than what wealth can give you, what the right relationship can give you, what all these material, bodily, temporary things of this world that we're all seeking. But the prize, the relationship, and what's called the prem, or the love that awakens between you and the Supreme, and then also the you and the many manifestations of the Supreme, like all of you are also part and parcel of the Supreme. That which awakens by the practice of these things, nobody can take that away from you. And actually, you know, it'll bring you to tears. You know, I never understood that you could have tears of joy. Like, that was a foreign concept in my life for most of my life. Tears of joy? No, I get tears when I'm angry. I get tears when I'm sad. Tears of joy? Admittedly, it's easier for women to experience tears of joy and tears of sadness than men. But yeah, there's something quite remarkable, and that is like the constant goal, you could say, of one who's very accomplished in this Buddhi Yoga, or the yoga of highest intelligence. But ultimately, you have to know to even look in the first place. So that's kind of my presentation today, is to encourage you to look into this text, the Bhagavad Gita, if you want to know Buddhi Yoga, if you really want to know about the highest teaching, bhakti, the science of love. Yoga is a science, it's an art. It's not a whimsical thing. It's not just a series of stretching or breathing. These things can be very helpful, but yoga is actually making the connection. And yoga is a lifestyle. Yoga isn't just something you do on a mat, even though my wife saw it today. I had about an hour and 15 minutes on a mat practice today. Actually, while I was listening to the lectures that inspired me to say anything at all today. But that is one of the many aspects of yoga I tried to practice today. And we start our practices very early in the morning, and so on. It's a lifestyle. So if you want to know about this lifestyle and what it actually means to be practicing this yoga, and what you get, just what you saw in these verses, that it's better than the flowery words of the Vedas or the flowery things that everyone tells you, the good job, the money, going on vacation, this, that, and the other thing. Everyone will tell you this is where happiness lies. Happiness doesn't lie in any of these things. At least long-lasting happiness. Happiness lies in actually the state of yoga, the state of samadhi, which is the final tier of the Eightfold Mystic Yoga system. What is the state? What does one experience in samadhi? Yes, the word is ananda, bliss. Everyone's looking for bliss. But if you look at the yoga systems, yamas, niyamas, there's some rules and regulations you should follow. Then how to sit and how to breathe. And then pratyahara, bringing the senses inward, taking everything outside, away from the outside world and bringing it inward. And then concentrating, dharana. And then that state of fixed concentration is dhyana or meditation. And in fixed meditation, the experience is bliss. So it's within you. You don't have to this, that, and the other. But that being said, that's not necessarily what we're here to teach, because there's an even higher stages of bliss that take you even higher than the samadhi found by the meditating yogi. But anyway, if you don't look that these things even exist and even explore them for yourself, how can you achieve them? And then naturally, I'll conclude with this, and then maybe we'll give a moment for questions or things like this. But, if you want to, would you all agree that maybe you love God here? Is that something? You don't know. You could say yes, I love God, or maybe you're interested in loving God. Sure, no problem. So if I'm just meeting Srijan today. So I'm meeting Srijan, and I have the claim, I love Srijan. I love Srijan. How much can I love you if I don't know much about you at all? Yeah, there might be a universal love. Yes, I love all people. Srijan is a people, so I'm a person. Srijan is one of those people, so I love him. But if I really want to share affection with Srijan, I'll have to get to know Srijan. So similarly, if you really want to love God and experience, you have to get to know Him. There has to be some process of getting to know Him. And the Vedic wisdom, and especially this scripture, the Srimad Bhagavatam, if you really want to get to know God, go through this at least some point in your lifetime. It's incredible. But this is a great start, Bhagavad Gita. You're getting very potent instructions from the Lord on how to act and what to do in this world. What is the duty of a being in our position? We should know. Well, is it just whatever I want, or is there something I should do? It's not just whatever you want. I mean, it could be. That's actually, you ever heard of Satanism? Satanism's like a scary word. Oh, Satanist, That's their credo, like Jay-Z and they're all getting in trouble now because their Satanist actions they've done a lot of bad things with the P. Diddy stuff. I don't want to get anywhere into that. But their credo, the Satanist credo, is do what thou will. The Bhakti Yoga credo would be the opposite. Thy will be done. That's Jesus said that, right? What do you will, and let's assure that what you will gets done. That's different. Just like if you love somebody, what are your needs and how can I serve? How can I be of help to you? Not the opposite is trying to impose what we want. No, it has to be like this, and it has to be like this, has to be like this. Why? Just because I feel like it. That's what I want. And we can evaluate our life. Do we live that way? The answer is likely, a good percentage, yes. Which is why this world is given to us, because we're this is a rectificatory, a reformation type of place where we can reap what we sow, as Jesus says, get our karma, and ultimately, if we can learn from these things and take to the yoga, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, of all sciences, the topmost is yoga, the science of connecting. And he's giving this Buddhi yoga. What's the most intelligent yoga? And it's going to be Bhakti yoga, the yoga of love and connection with the Supreme. So that's my presentation. Please explore this for yourself. The goal or the prize you get is unmatched by anything. It makes these other things like power and heavenly pleasures, all types of sense gratification, sex life, drug life, this, that, and the other. It seems meaningless in comparison. So if you want something far greater than this, there's a pathway to this, and it's achievable. And if you ask anyone who has practiced for some time, they could probably tell you that some of the fruits that have come in their life. And I personally, I see the fruits developing more and more and more and more. And many wonderful things about my life that didn't exist previously. That money can't buy these things. Money can't buy these things. The richness in knowledge, the richness in even sharing this knowledge with others and seeing how others so deeply benefit, the healing that happens in others when they actually have access to something that can not only get rid of all miseries but give them ever-increasing pleasure. That's wonderful. And then you experience more and more pleasure by helping others experience it. So, there's nothing like it. What good will be like all kinds of, wealth and sex and this, that, and the other thing. And if you want that, through Bhakti you get all those things anyway. Anything you want, you get. You'll also get the consequences of what you want. Like one time, I was a bit immature in the beginning of my Bhakti yoga practice. And I was like, I really want a wife. That's all I want. I'm not here to... I got a wife. And I really, really want a wife, and so I would meditate on this constantly. And then Krishna actually, he arranged like a really wonderful scenario where I met my wife, and it was, it was so wonderful. And we actually did spiritual practice together. We still do it. Right now we're doing. But there are also consequences and responsibilities of getting a wife means becoming a husband. And actually becoming a husband, there's a ton of responsibilities I wasn't exactly expecting. Now one of my responsibilities are having a child. And you better believe there's going to be a ton of, having a wife means there's a lot of responsibilities. But now once the child is here, the responsibilities will double, triple, who knows what's going to happen. But, that's not it's not like all those extra responsibilities, like, yes, this is the pinnacle of happiness. But what I can say has made me very happy with this situation is that we can work together in developing our Bhakti yoga practice together. And that is very joyful. The extra responsibilities, we are able to tolerate and move through them with that. But, if she wasn't practicing this Bhakti yoga thing with me, oh man, I think it would be not a good fit for me. But she is, so it's a very good fit. So anyhow, this is one small example. But I'll stop talking now. Do you guys have anything you'd like to comment or ask or like this?
I have a question more about Hare Krishna in general. Like, is it a religion? Is it a part of Hinduism?
Well, it's both. you could say like that. Or you could say Hinduism could be a part of this, because Hinduism itself is it kind of was a name given by the Muslim conquerors in Vedic India, and it was the people who practiced the religion on the other side of the Sindhu River, and they were called the Hindus. And they named all the cities. This is Hindustan, this, that, and the other. So, to get your point though, the practicing of that religion, what is that religion? That's called Sanatan Dharma. Sanatan means eternal. Dharma, it means religion. So everyone actually is practicing Sanatan Dharma. An atheist is even practicing Sanatan Dharma. A Christian is practicing Sanatan Dharma. Everybody is practicing Sanatan Dharma, but where they fit in the model of Sanatan Dharma is unique to their experience. So you're also practicing the Sanatan Dharma. I am, as Hare Krishna, is practicing the Hare Krishna as well. But so you asked is it a part of Hinduism, and then you asked one other aspect.
Is it a religion?
Oh, is it a religion? Yeah, I mean, depends how you define religion, right? So Google defines religion as, I don't have it, the belief and worship of a superhuman power or powers, especially a god or gods, then yes, this is a religion. If you define religion as like an organized religion, there's that element as well. I don't like to so deeply subscribe to organized religious aspect, because there's sometimes they can become muddled, if people aren't able to fully practice the principles. Heck, we kind of have a little organized religious element, and I've seen in even ourselves where we've made mistakes, where we weren't able to properly represent, or at the highest level that we know we should have, represent what we're trying to share. So, but yeah, it depends how you define religion. But yeah, absolutely, it's practiced religiously, but it doesn't have to be so organized. You have a question?
No, I just wanted to add to the question of Hinduism, because it's actually kind of a confusing topic, like for us, because we don't identify like really as Hindu. It wasn't like something that the founder of the Hare Krishna movement like propagated, because within Hinduism there's so many different ways of worshiping. Like some people think like like Lord Shiva or Ganesh, and if you're in the yoga scene, you've probably seen so many different things, and Hanuman is God, and so there's so many like sub branches and different ways and everything. But Prabhupada mostly was like, if you're Christian, if you're Jewish, whatever you are, he was like, just love God. So it's like a non-sectarian thing. He was like, you could still chant the names of Krishna, or you chant whatever names call to you like that. But yeah, he didn't really want to like so much group it into just like Hinduism, because he didn't want people to think that like, oh, this is only for Hindus, or if you're like this, you can't do this, So that's actually why I was attracted to it a lot in the beginning. So I was never like a religious, you could say, person. Like I was like very much on a spiritual path, but it wasn't until later I was like, am I practicing religion? Like, what am I doing? But so anyway, it's a bit complicated, but it's back to the the body thing. Like there's so many designations in this world to like box things and identify things, but really it's like teachings of the spirit soul, and that's like individual to everyone. So I don't know if that helped, but I was just.
So do you call it like Hare Krishna-ism? Like is there a name?
Yeah, you could. The name is Gaudiya. Gaudiya is from a certain section of India, like in the northeast section of India, and Vaishnavism. Vaishnava is one who worships the Supreme Lord, and the name for him is Vishnu. And so Gaudiya is the very unique flavor to how we practice that stemmed out of a incredible avatar or an appearance of Vishnu in that region that kind of set the Hare Krishnaism into what differentiates it from the many other sects of Vaishnavism that also exist. So yeah, there is an ism you can box it, but back to her. Yeah, many people call us the Hare Krishnas, or
There's a lot of
but but everyone, there's one eternal religion, and everyone is practicing it, and who's making advancement in that religion and not is it's individual, but there's most in this world have not took that step, or have taken only a few baby steps, and we ourselves have only taken a few baby steps. So we're just recommending others also take a few baby steps with us, because it's just a little bit down the path. You get a lot of really wonderful, you could say, the fruits of the practice are well worth it. But anything else? Discussion point on anything?
I was thinking about the tears of joy that you mentioned.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you would just share a little something about that. Like, is that something you experienced as a child within the framework you grew up in, or when you came into Krishna consciousness, was there something that happened where that began to happen?
I won't, just to try and preserve whatever little bit of humility that I'm trying to cultivate, I won't go so into detail about my experiences with tears of joy. But I've never experienced tears of joy previously in my life. And then when coming into this tradition, there were a few very pivotal moments in my life of practicing this that tears of joy actually came, and it was quite foreign to me, but it's an experience unlike anything I ever had experienced before. And with continued practice, I can say that these experiences become more and more readily available. Not that I can just all right, tears of joy, no. But by regularly practicing these things, circumstances will happen that will evoke what's called bhav, or emotion, that will actually give you a significant set of feelings. And so, the instances are few and far between, because I'm not so advanced. But just whatever little practice I have been able to do has evoked some of the symptoms that is spoken of, and I yearn for those moments. I can't wait till the next one, but like I said, I can't just be like tears of joy. It doesn't work like that. It's very unique to whatever circumstances, and usually how you're connecting in your practice. But it's very available for everybody who follows the process. It's not. I am not a unique case, other than the fact that I have decided that I'm gonna keep trying this thing. That's all. I'm not very special, other than I every day I make a commitment. I'm gonna try again today. So, like that. Anything else?
In our scriptures, like the Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is on the bottom, and then also like Bhagavatam, there's stories and pastimes of saints that are practicing this path and chanting like the Maha Mantra, and like he's saying, we've only taken baby steps, and he's only gotten these a few times, but you read about them, and some of them are just like daily thrown into ecstasies, because their connection and their bhav is so strong, and their practice is so strong. And it's very rare that we have these souls walking the planet now, but you know, so when you get to read scriptures like that, you get to somewhat see like what they're tasting to some small degree, and what's bringing that about. I think of there's this one Saint Haridas Thakur, and he actually he was beaten in 32 marketplaces because he was Muslim, and then he was so-called Hindu, but he was just chanting Hare Krishna, and he was being anyway, the Muslim government didn't like it, so they brought him around to make a show of it. But basically, he wasn't even really attached to his body, so he didn't die, he was fine, everything was good, but he was just so ecstatic on like a daily basis that he would just go into these like divine ecstasies. And anyway, if you're interested in, and you get into the reading, like the reading the scriptures and things, it's really enlightening, and it's really inspiring, because you can see that it's like available, you know, even though it's very far from where we are at the moment, but it's really all just has to do with like your consciousness and connection to the Lord. So yeah, I just wanted to add that, because my husband, he's experienced something, but like these it said that actually some of these acharyas or saints, when they even just chant Hare, which is like the beginning of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, they'll just right away, like they're in that like divine ecstasy, because they're just so connected. They don't even have to say whole mantra. What to speak of us, who are sitting there for 2 hours, like Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, trying to like taste something, you know. So yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to add that.
Very good. Anything else?
Are there female leaders and avatars in this movement?
Yeah. Yes, there are. Actually, there's one in particular we really like. Just to, what are they mentioning on the interwebs? And I think somehow or other she has become a controversial person, but I really like her, and actually I owe a great deal to her, because it was through my talks and questioning of her that she actually helped to set me on a really, I could say, the next step of my spiritual practice. So there are many. Females by nature are more humble, which is a very wonderful quality. And actually, if you actually understand the pinnacle of where this is going, I have to speak cryptically, because if I just start trying to speak all these things, it's just an inappropriate thing. But actually, all of the, you could say, leaders in this movement, the ultimate destination is to take on the qualities of the feminine. So, like I said, I have to speak a little cryptically, but in this world, there are female leaders. I will admit it's less prominent than male leaders, but they're really, really qualified female leaders. And I personally, and my wife personally, was really deeply benefited by one of them. And if you wanted to know, maybe we could share with you some resources you can hear from her and things like that. But yeah, there's all kinds of, no one's limited. It's not like, oh, well, you're a man, you're a woman. The whole goal is to not get so attached to the shell. Like, you know, oh, I'm wearing a sweater and Michael and Tanmai's wearing a different sweater, you know. Or like, oh, I drive this type of car, I drive that type of car. The type of car, yeah, like a van is good for certain things, and a sports car is good for something else. But ultimately, at the end of the day, the people get out of their van, they get out of their sports car, and they have their life outside of their car. So similarly, at some point, we're going to come out of a woman's body or a man's body or a child's body or an adult's body, and we have something very important to do as a soul that's beyond the bodily identification. So that's like one of the first teachings of Bhagavad Gita. But that being said, there are plenty of leaders in women's body, and there's plenty of leaders in men's bodies. I would admit, though, there are seemingly more leaders in men's bodies, but that's oftentimes because psychologically women are more humble, which is a recommendation of our spiritual tradition, is to become more humble than a blade of grass. So you could say the boldness to want to step up and lead isn't as prominent in at least very advanced practitioners. And even in myself, I'm finding, in my younger years, I was very bold and ambitious to want to step up and lead, and now I'm realizing, like, wow, what an arrogant thing what an arrogance about me to kind of do these things. So now I'm trying to only lead out of service, and only if there's not someone so evidently more qualified than myself to lead. But actually everyone is capable of taking a leadership role in some way or another. And so women, absolutely.
She also asked of avatars.
Avatars, yes. Yeah, one of the most recent was that. Thank you. I didn't. There was a wife of an avatar of a recent one within the past 500 years. His name was Nityananda Prabhu. Actually, he's represented right there on the left side, little guy like this. So his wife was an avatar. Her name is Janavamata, and she performed clearly superhuman type of activities, and actually was one of the first spiritual gurus of this lineage, how it descended to where we are. Right behind you, right above your head, you see the Supreme Avatar. Yeah, her name is Radharani. And you could even say all those other, if you look in that picture,
all the way to the right.
yeah. If you look in that picture, there's all of them are avatars, you could so-called say, but the chief avatar is actually a female, and that's Radharani. And when chanting Hare, that's actually the emphasis on more experienced devotees, is on the divine feminine, and ultimately we understand her personally as Radharani. And actually she is Krishna's guru of love. So, ultimately, like I said, the emphasis is, like I was cryptically saying in the beginning, is definitely on the feminine, including on, avatars, everything. Even the focus of worship usually goes to the feminine.
The thing that I think of, like, when I think Krishna is the supreme controller, but Sri Radharani controls Krishna. So
Yes, so she makes him. Yes, so if Krishna can access from the masculine principle as God, and can control all of creation and things as we know it, but he is so very deeply controlled by her, then who is the real controller? I was joking with my wife earlier today that something along the lines, I look like I'm the boss at the ashram. I look like I tell, okay, you do this duty, you do this duty, you do this duty. But I was just joking to her because she wanted something done, and usually I'm the vessel from which something has to get done. But her desire, I was like, you just say it. If you say it, your word is law. Everyone will listen to you, and that's it. And it's true. If she says it, and to any one of them, they'll immediately do it. With me, they'll maybe want to like squirm a little bit or something like that. But yeah, that's just on a basic principle. On a very mundane level. There's, what is that Western axiom? the most powerful man in the world can only be brought to his knees by a woman. You know, so this is the, you know,
Caesar and all that.
yeah, like any, even like that's what made Cleopatra so famous. And she brought all of these, like, you know, big rulers, and I think Alexander the Great was one of them, like, ultimately to their knees, because they have something that is complementary, and even, you know, men, you know, it seems have like a strength or even like a focus and this and that, and they can accomplish so many things. But, you know, if a woman is, we're completely controlled by women. That's at least my experience. But yeah, even at a divine level, there's a certain element of this as well. But actually, like I said, actually the prime focus is actually on the feminine avatar of Radharani. So we chant the Maha Mantra. We chant Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. The word that we say the most is Hare, and that's indicating Radharani. So there's nothing we say more than the name of Radharani. So.
And if you go to the holy place, like where we're going to India soon, everyone just says Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
And that's just like the greeting.
That's the whole.
Worship Radhe.
Yes, Krishna isn't even so important. It's Radhe Radhe, you know. So he is important, but only because he's very important to Radharani. So now he must be very important to us as well.
Come regardless.
What's that?
Go to Radharani, he's gonna come regardless.
Exactly. So he's always interested in being where she is. So anyhow, I think we should stop because it's 4:55. Do you want to do another short kirtan and then we could all eat together? Does that sound good? Is that everything was satisfactory? Doubts are pacified. If not, if you read it, it'll be very nice. And if yeah, we can always talk, take questions, this, that, and the other. Thank you who joined online. If you did.